Hey guys, Raptor here, and today we're talking about a video made by Film Theory. Film Theory made a video claiming that Jack Sparrow is dying from dehydration. Yeah. By the way, before we get into this, I will mostly skip, the intro bit to where he just talks about the franchise and whatnot and just directly get to, his points. So anyway, let's get started.
Discussion over the last 2 decades around whether Captain Jack's antics were the result of an underestimated genius-level intellect hidden under that persona, or just an incredible streak of luck. Even the characters in universe aren't sure.
Well, Jack Sparrow is actually pretty smart in the Pirates of the Caribbean series. He was the one who figured out how to escape Davy Jones's locker. The only reason why he acts dumb and stupid is to trick his enemies. That's the reason why he acts that way. That's the reason why he acts like a complete moron sometimes, is to make his enemies let their guard down, and then when they do, he manages to get out of this situation.
Aren't sure.
Do you think he plans it all out? Or just makes it up as he goes along?
But what if I told you that the franchise actually tells us the secret to Captain Jack's success in the very first movie?
They marooned Jack on an island and left him to die, but not before he'd gone mad with the heat.
Well, Captain Jack's fanciful stories about escaping a deserted island on the back of sea turtles might have been a lie. The whole going mad with the heat part of it wasn't. You see, Captain Jack is an unpredictable force of nature, not because he's a drunk, not because he's a genius, but because he's been dangerously dehydrated for his entire life.
You are aware of dehydration only lasts like 3 days and then you die. And the Pirates of the Caribbean, one of them takes place 4 years after the other one. So that means Jack Sparrow would have already been dead, like right after like the first movie. Actually, he would have died before the events of the second movie. And also, by the way, the whole he went mad with the heat was most likely just supposed to be a joke and not meant to be taken seriously. And most likely was just made up. Also, by the way, again, the only reason why Jack Sparrow acts stupid and dumb in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies is to trick and deceive his enemies. So they let their guard down, and then that's how he usually gets them. Anyway, let's just continue.
Yep, dehydrated. He is literally dying of thirst, so badly in fact that he's completely boiled his own brain. Doesn't sound like that big of a deal? Well, it is. In fact, it explains all of Captain Jack's behavior and mannerisms throughout the entirety of the series.
Okay, like I just said earlier, Jack Sparrow only acts the way he does is to trick and deceive people. It ain't because his brain's being boiled. It ain't because he's dehydrated. It's the only reason why he does it is to deceive and trick people. Did you even pay attention to the Pirates of the Caribbean series? Oh no, you just watched a bunch of clips on YouTube and just made your theory around that.
Them all in spades. Let's start with the no sweating thing. Take a look at the first ever sword fight that Jack Sparrow has against Will Turner. Jack isn't sweating at all. Despite the rigorous physical activity of swimming down to save Elizabeth Swann, carrying her unconscious body to shore, escaping a firing squad, swinging from ropes, sprinting through the streets of a humid port city trying to break his bonds and engaging a talented swordsman in a balmy blacksmithery. Sure, he's a little greasy, but not any more than he normally is. In comparison, look at Will from the same scene. Despite entering the shop completely dry and doing only a fraction of the exercise that Captain Jack just did, he is literally dripping with sweat halfway through the fight. In fact, looking at the series in its entirety, Captain Jack lacks sweat the entire time. After running bent over with a bamboo stalk strapped to his back and escaping the cannibals, the only liquid on his face is paint and seawater. After rowing a life raft both to and from the Kraken, he's likewise completely sweat-free. Despite trying to pull the Black Pearl hard enough that he's gasping, he's still as dry as the desert around him. In Pirates 4, Captain Jack doesn't have a bead of sweat on him after running through the tropical wilderness long enough for his clothes, which had been completely soaked, to dry. And again, this isn't just movie magic. Look at other characters. They sweat. Jack doesn't.
Just because one character doesn't sweat in a movie doesn't mean that character is dehydrated. For example, Star-Lord never sweated in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Does that mean he's dehydrated? Also, by the way, you used like Davy Jones's locker as the example when he was in Davy Jones's locker, even though in Davy Jones' locker, to get there, you have to be dead.
The long and short of all this is that his body just doesn't have any extra water to spare. He can't sweat anymore, which means that his body can't cool off naturally, which means that he's constantly suffering from heat stroke. A side effect of that, slurred speech. Practically every line that he speaks throughout the series, but especially when you get to Pirates 5, is slurred. Sure, in some cases he's drunk, but in several others he is stone cold sober, like here.
The treasure to be found with the map that no man can read.
And here.
Shall I tell you know who what we both know to be true?
I mean, it's a good thing that I can watch these movies with closed captions, because Captain Jack's lines by the end of the series are like he's gargling with rocks in his mouth.
Okay, the only reason why he talks like that is to trick and deceive his enemies so they think he's an idiot. That, like I said earlier, that's the reason why he does it. He talks and acts like an idiot to trick his enemies, when in reality, he's very, very smart. Like I said this earlier, he's very smart. He only talks this way just to trick his enemies. Also, by the way, you're using Dead Man Tell No Tales as the example, even though if you actually paid attention in the real world, the actor for Captain Jack Sparrow was actually depressed, and that's why he acts radically differently in Dead Man Tell No Tales. It's mostly because he wasn't as, joyful and happy as he usually was. So that's the reason why he mostly, acts just acts the way he does, is because the actor was depressed, and it was also because of the script he was given. Anyway, let's just continue with this.
Remember when I said that sometimes dehydration and heat stroke can result in altered mental states? Well, that can manifest with some symptoms of psychosis, including hallucinations. All throughout Pirates 3, Captain Jack both sees and talks to several other versions of himself, including a creepy coral-covered vision of his future.
I miss him already. He is quite charming, isn't he?
Nobody move!
Earlier, we see him physically interacting with one of these hallucinations, stabbing it to intimidate the other hallucinated selves, who then promptly disappear. After finding him, Will Turner even makes note of Captain Jack's delirious state.
He thinks we're a hallucination.
That's not the result of drunkenness. That's the result of a brain literally being boiled alive inside its own skull.
Film theory, like I said, he's dead in Davy Jones's locker. How would his brain be boiled if he's literally been in Davy Jones's locker, which, remember, to get there, you have to be dead? Why are you using this as an example? As for why he's hallucinating, it's most likely he's been alone for so long to where he's slowly losing his mind. Anyway, let's continue with this.
And this contributes to other symptoms too. One of Captain Jack's very visible symptoms is loss of motor function. It's long been theorized that Captain Jack's general instability while walking or standing is because of his sea legs, that he was so used to walking on a ship bobbing at sea that dry land tipped him off balance. Or maybe he's just drunk all the time. And while either could make for a fun character detail, scientifically it actually makes more sense that Jack's dehydration impaired his motor functions, which, as you watch throughout the series, just get worse over time. Early in the films, he simply has trouble standing up straight or walking without putting his arms out to balance himself. But by the time of Pirates 5, he's practically stumbling and wobbling through every scene, to the point that he can't even jump a fence without falling flat on his face.
Okay, you are aware the only reason why he walks that way is to trick and deceive his enemies, just like how he acts like an idiot and behaves like an idiot to trick his enemies. How many times am I going to have to say this?
Like you just woke up, but all the time. Bringing this back around to Captain Jack, we see something that could very easily be considered brain fog as early as Pirates 2, when Sparrow's compass can't tell what he really wants. Does he want more rum? Does he want the Black Pearl? To not work for Davy Jones for 100 years? He doesn't even know. And by the time of Pirates 5, this brain fog has gotten so bad that this once sharp, witty pirate has turned into someone with difficulty forming even a complete thought.
Give me the map, or I will kill.
This dehydration-driven brain fog could have even impacted Captain Jack's decisions as early as the first movie. When we first meet Sparrow, he's arriving at Port Royal, Jamaica, which at that point had been pretty thoroughly purged of pirates by the time the movies take place in the 1720s. They even explicitly warn all pirates to stay away. Captain Jack, at this point, has not only been branded as a pirate by the East India Trading Company, but he's also apparently infamous enough to be recognized by the tattoo on his arm.
Well, well.
Jack Sparrow, isn't it?
And yet still, he decides to go to a port that is notorious for killing pirates. Why? The only reason I can think is that Port Royal is one of the closest major Caribbean points to Tortuga, Haiti, which is where he borrowed his sinking ship, but there are options that aren't much further away, like Havana, Cuba, and Nassau in the Bahamas. Maybe he wanted to steal one of the Navy ships, but again, that seems incredibly stupid and dangerous. It's a dumb decision that would likely only come from someone with brain fog.
Film theory. His ship was sinking. His ship was sinking. If he went in any other direction besides that place, he would have ended up at the bottom of the ocean. His ship was literally inches from sinking when he got to the shoreline. If he went in any other direction, he would have died. He would have died. He didn't have a choice. He had to go there, because if he didn't, he would have just simply, his ship would have sunk and he would have drowned. Also, by the way, once again, we don't count Dead Man Tells Jack Sparrow, because once again, the actor was depressed and, the script and all that stuff, just like I said earlier. Anyway, let's just continue.
Captain Jack's severe dehydration may also explain why we see him drinking so much rum, ale, and wine throughout the series. Sure, it's endearing when he says,
Why is the rum gone?
except I suspect that his body has subconsciously come to rely on these liquids for any sort of hydration that he can find. Practically any liquid is going to be better than no liquid, right? But here, it's just making matters worse. See, though these alcohols would supply fluid for Captain Jack's body, they would also be affecting his brain, and specifically his pituitary gland. This little guy in the front of the brain is responsible for generating vasopressin, a hormone that helps prevent you from urinating when you're dehydrated. That way your body can reabsorb the water as opposed to losing it. Unfortunately for Captain Jack though, consuming alcohol both decreases your ability to generate vasopressin and weakens your ability to help retain water, thus worsening his dehydration. This then becomes a vicious cycle. Captain Jack working out in the heat all day becoming dehydrated. There isn't a lot of water on the ship already, so he starts drinking the alcohol that he has stashed away. Now he's even more dehydrated to the point that his body temperature is going to increase, heightening his chances for heat exhaustion, thus furthering his dehydration and damaging his body and mind.
You are aware rum has water in it, right? And also, by the way, every time we see Jack Sparrow drink rum, it's mostly just casually. He just casually just takes a little sip out of it. If he was dehydrated, he would be constantly guzzling it. Like, literally, every time he sees, like, a bottle of it, he would just instantly drink it. Anyway, I'm just going to end the video here. Mainly because he's going to bring up how this actually worked out for, like, Jack Sparrow and all that stuff. Blah, 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 Anyway, I'm going to end the video here since I have nothing else to say. Film Theory clearly didn't do any research. He most likely just saw a bunch of, like, clips online of the Pirates of the Caribbean films and just, made his theory based off of that. Anyway, have a good day or night depending on wherever you are.